Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Radio Sky. I'm so used to saying Radio Skywriter. Wow. TV Skywriter. I am Pat Murray, and I'm broadcasting here from Durham, North Carolina. My guest is actually from my hometown. Actually, she's living in my hometown, Chicago. She is jazz vocalist and bassist, Cecile Savage. Welcome to the show, Cecile.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I had to correct myself because you're not actually from Chicago.
Surely I'm not.
So where are you from, Cecile?
Around, so sometimes I'm coughing. We have all kinds of cotton things flowing around in the air and it makes me cough. I should have gotten some water before, but that's okay. Well,
actually, you can run and get some if you want, and I can actually, when I play one of your songs,
cool.
Why don't you run and get some water then? But basically, I want you to tell folks who you are and where you're from, because I know they have already detected your French accent.
Well, a lot of people don't think it's French. They don't know what it is. They think it's, well, a lot of people put me in all kinds of places in the world.
Is that right?
My name is Cecile Savage, and I am from France. I was born in Martinique. I grew up in Paris. And I came to New York in the 70s, lived in New York for a while, and I then went back on the road playing the blues and came to Chicago in the 80s. I'm afraid I'm going to have to go get water now.
That's okay. What I'm going to do is to play one of your songs. I'm going to play part of The Journey. Okay. So you go get some water, and I will play a little bit of The Journey. Okay, folks, while Cecile gets water, that's fine. In accordance to Google Plus rules, I am following the rules. This is an original song by Cecile Savage and her group.
Forever searching, there's no ending to this long journey. Lessons from the masters inspired to withstand alone tribulation on our own journey.
Oh, Cecile is back. Let me switch over it. Hey, Cecile, tell us about that music because you wrote that.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, tell us about that.
That came out of a conversation with Chicago saxophonist Vaughn Freeman, and Vaughn had a session for years. He had many sessions.
Mm-hmm.
I played one of them regularly in the 90s, but that came out of the New Apartment Lounge, and it was, I remember, July 4th. And Ray Brown had just been in Chicago. And Ray Brown, of course, is a mentor of mine and such a great bassist.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about his show, and Vaughn Freeman had gone to see him, and he said, you know, I thought Ray wasn't looking good. And it actually happened to be, as we were speaking, it is the night that Ray Brown passed away in his hotel in Indianapolis.
Oh my God.
So it was such a synchronicity of sort. I was inspired to write this tune, The Journey, because he was saying Vaughn was very spiritual, and he wouldn't necessarily share with everybody. Mm-hmm. But he was saying, you know, we have a journey, and everybody, you can tell when the journey's over. And he was talking about Ray's journey being over, and that's the night he passed away.
Wow. It's almost as if he knew.
And because both of them were masters, I mean, they were definitely mentors of mine. And that's how come I wrote this song.
Mm-hmm. And how do you write music? As a bass player, I can't imagine how you really hear music. Do you hear a bass line
That
first or chords?
is no. Sometimes it's a melody, sometimes it's words,
Hmm.
sometimes I write with guitar. I do not write. It's very seldom that I write the bass line first. There's a couple of songs only I wrote the bass line first. I used to play piano as a kid for many years. And then not having a piano and traveling, the piano of the folks with no money and no home of the nomad is the guitar. That's why the blues players have guitars. So I was again very blessed to learn with some other masters in New York City, such as Ted Dunbar. And so when I write, I would not really dare play guitar on stage, but that was my introduction to harmony and well, what would Ted Dunbar would call tonal center.
Okay.
So that plus the fact that my mother's old man was Brazilian. So when I was a teenager, at the time that bossa nova was making it in America, but not in France, we had a lot of Brazilian music, such as Elis Regina, Chico Buarque, and a lot of samba music, which was not very known, and I guess it really marked me. Plus, as in those years, I was playing piano and kind of picking on a guitar on my own. I was I was self-taught on the guitar. But because I played so much piano, I mean, it was not too bad. And that really influenced the way that I heard chord progression and how Brazilian music kind of goes left at weird times, or it goes right when you don't expect it, and the chord progression moves in very interesting ways. So this tune is rather chromatic, actually. It's actually moving down chromatically. But that's so I never write the same way. I have to be inspired, and I have to have the time to sit on it. It's like a baby. Birthing a tune for me is longer than having a baby. It takes 9 months to have a baby. It takes me longer than that sometimes. Or it might take me an hour and a half to write it, but then I don't do anything with it for years. And then I go back to it and I go like, wow. Well, actually, this is one of my projects, but I don't know how it's going to get done this summer. Because after I did these 2 tunes, I have about 10 other tunes. And
do you write them out? Because if you're self-taught, you do read, right?
Well, playing classical piano, you have to read.
Oh, you play classical? Okay.
I read music before I could read letters. I come from a family of artists, and my mom taught me how to read music when I was 4, 5.
Wow. So,
of course I read. But when I came to America, here's the thing. When you play classical music, it goes from your eyes to your heart to your hands.
Okay.
What I learned about playing the blues was to play music from the other tradition, which is the oral tradition, where you are not learning from paper. I had to listen and listen and listen and play it from the inside out instead of the out inside. Now, what a cat like Yo-Yo Ma can do with classical music, he has seeped into such a deep level that when a great classical musician really put it back from the inside out again. That's what composers used to do. But because the Western tradition has been so much into reading, we have lost the improvising and the composing. Improvising is composing on the spot.
I like the way Yo-Yo Ma has been able to go around the world playing with all kinds of musicians.
Sure do. I do too.
I mean, even I had the impression that classical musicians couldn't improvise and that they could only play what they saw.
That's not always true.
Yeah.
That is not always true. But it is true that it might retain an element of stiffness, because out of what makes blues and jazz is the rhythmic element. And that is not part of the Western tradition. That is part of the African tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to be able to, and there are many people who came in my life who made me realize that without me realizing it at the time. When I met Sugar Blue in New York City in the park and I started playing the blues, I was very unaware that I had to play 4 bars of 1 chord, 2 bars of 4 chord. And at the beginning, it didn't, even though I thought it was cool, it didn't work like that in my brain.
Yeah.
So it was I realized it was a great thing that it happened to me, because all the time that I played the blues, it was as if my classical training and my playing of Chopin or Debussy, and that's another thing, I love the French Impressionists, both as composers and as painters. I also love Stravinsky. I grew up in a musical environment. My uncle was a teacher of composition at the Paris Conservatory. So they were always musicians. They were always like the contemporary music. Names that were very common in the household were Xenakis, Boulez, Ligeti, all these people, and it was very 8-tonal or 12-tone music. So
did you understand it as a child?
It's nothing to understand. It is something to listen to and go, babu, babida, 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 babida. And I thought it was fun. We used to make fun of my uncle and play the piano like he did. But there is a system. It was not just madness. So it was, again, you know, when you're a kid, your brain is the sponge. Sure. So you take everything in. So there was this type of music. There was definitely classical music. My mom would be putting a different Bach cantata every Sunday. Mm-hmm. And definitely Chopin's Etudes and all that stuff. And my father, because he was in Africa, we had African music, we had jazz. So that's when I would listen to, behind the door, they would play Louis Armstrong, and I would go like, damn, I like that stuff. That's where I want to go. Mm-hmm. And as a kid, I was thinking, I'm going to go there. That's what I'm going to do. And little did I know that once I finally found myself living on the south side of Chicago for many, many years, I went like, wow, that is the trip I made. Wow. Not knowing the hurdles that trip would, that I would have to jump over, mm-hmm. you know.
Well, they say put it in your music, right?
Yeah, they do say that. They do say that, and I believe that everything you live, you know, Blind Lemon Jefferson said, "Play like you live, play like you live," and some people live like they play, and I believe the opposite is true too.
Which is better?
Play like you live. I mean, but for that you got to live. You got to live fully. You got to live. And I've been blessed to meet great musicians who helped me along the way. I've also been blessed when I first got to New York City. I didn't know anyone. I come in with a little backpack and a guitar.
Wow, that's it?
You're in New York, huh?
Well, let me ask. I mean, this is a typical question, but you arrived in New York. Did you already speak English? You studied it in school?
Yes, I did. I had learned English in high school. I had learned also Russian and Latin and Greek. We had to learn all that. And so I spoke Russian fairly well. So, New York, Moscow, and New York. More stuff happening over there. And so I ended up in New York, and I was also very blessed to be part of a great theater company in New York called the Living Theater. And so with such people as Julian Beck and Judith Malina. And for a year, I was part of the company. It was a great way for me to get exposed to America. The company was extremely international. Politically, you know, I came out of the late 60s movement in France. So I was quote unquote politicized. I mean, I'd been busted in France, and you know, we were part of the events of May 68 where the country was on strike for 2 months, the whole country. So it was very different than in America. So I came here with already a very, I knew what America was about. I knew that the American dream, in my opinion, was probably a myth. But all Europeans...
At least you're realistic about it.
I was very much so. But all Europeans are very attracted by you know, it was the time of Easy Rider. It was also the time of the Panthers. It was the time of, there was so much stuff happening. And so it was very, very interesting time. And here I come with my little guitar, because by that time I don't have a piano. And by the time I was in the company, the Living Theater, we used to rehearse at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. And then I had a piano. So I would go to 48th Street, you know, music stores. And when my eyes opened up, I went like, that's why I had bought a book called the John Megan. It was a harmony book. And as a classical pianist, I hadn't been trained to analyze the music as far as chord progressions. And when I sat at the piano and saw that these progressions were universal, universal for Western music. We sometimes tend to be Eurocentric. And it kind of clicked in my mind. And then jazz is functioning on Western harmony. And then I was blessed again in Chicago, not only to play with Von Freeman and be kicked. He would kick me gently, calling me at 4 o'clock in the morning, say, I don't want you to play these notes. When I play solo, stay on the bottom of the bass. I don't want you to stay on top.
At 4 in the morning, he would call
you? After the gig. He would call me after the gig.
So he's still thinking about the music.
Oh, Von was thinking about the music 24/7. 24/7.
Wow.
Von was
Maybe that's why he was so great.
He was so great. He would practice at his house with both the TV and the radio on, saying, you got to focus. Whatever happens in the club. And I'm still learning that. Focus is still a point that I have to work on. Because we work in clubs, whatever happens, if you look, you lose your train of thought. You lose your, it's like walking a straight line, you know. You lose your footing.
But sometimes you don't want to be too focused, because once I was in a jazz club and a pretty lady walked into the club and I saw the horn player as he was soloing, he seemed to be asking her out. You know what I mean?
But he was focused on asking her out playing.
Yeah. And I thought that was really cute.
He didn't lose his focus playing. He didn't focus his playing. That he was talking to his horn.
And that was really interesting to watch. I think she said yes.
Yeah, I'm sure. She did. Well, you know, women are with musicians for at least a couple of months. After that, there's a whole different business.
Yeah, we don't have to go there.
Yeah.
So when did you switch to bass?
Oh, so I'm playing guitar. I'm in New York City. I'm playing guitar. And I really like the guitar. I mean, I'd also learned some classical guitar, you know, since I could read. And I taught myself to play guitar. I'm playing guitar, and I met Sugar Blue, who at the time was playing harmonica. He was unknown. Nobody knew him like now. And we played in the streets. We played in the streets for several summers and made very decent money. And, you know, because I was learning, he said, well, listen, today I have a guitar player who's better than you. Here's a bass. You know the bass lines. And they put in my hand a electric bass. So I played with my thumb. The first gig was an old man from from Alabama somewhere. His name was Sweet Papa Stovepipe. If you look in old blues books,
Sweet
Papa Stovepipe. And this man could play, and he was already in his 90s.
Wow.
And I'm playing the bass. So I ended up, then we had a trio, or quartet actually, going in the streets with another cat from Georgia, from the islands, playing the washboard. And I'm playing bass all the time. I got tired of New York. I got very tired of the race relations in New York. It was really getting to me. Not that race relations in France are better. Now, let's not think it's a piece of cake. It's pretty horrible too. It's part of the same history, so it's no better. But I go back to France for a minute. And when I go back after 2 months, I say, what am I doing here? I want to go back to the States. At that time, Sugar Blue comes over, and we started playing in the subway in France. And that's when the Rolling Stones, or somebody heard him, and he got to play with the Rolling Stones on Miss You. Wow. And so we ended up touring all over. We ended up touring Europe and Africa.
Wow. Where did you play in Africa?
We played in Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya. We just stopped by. We played in Zambia, and we also played in Cameroon. Wow. So we crisscrossed a little bit. But after a while, I was really listening to jazz all the time. And a lot of, in Europe, they don't divide blues and jazz like they do here. It's not such a different audience. It's pretty much the same audience that goes there.
Oh, really?
Well, right now, it's the Blues Fest in Chicago, and you could tell that the blues audience is totally different than the jazz audience. Totally. Over there, it's very much the same thing. It's American music, and they love it. So we were just traveling, but I wanted to come back to the States. I wanted to play better. I was managing also. There was a lot of pressure on me. So I said, okay, since we're playing the blues, I'm going to go to Chicago. I get to play better, and I get to play upright bass. And we played with a lot of nice, big people. You know, we opened up for Muddy Waters. We went on the road with Memphis Slim.
Wow.
And when I came to Chicago, Memphis Slim called me, said, come on the road with me. I said, oh, you're going to let me take my upright? He said, nope, you're going to take your electric. I said, I'm not going. I'm going to play upright. I said, you're crazy, girl. You're absolutely insane.
You said no because you want to take your upright?
I said, yeah, but if I go with you in 3 years, 4 years from now, I won't know any upright. I'll still be playing electric. And so I stayed in Chicago.
Wow.
So I stayed in Chicago, and here I am.
Wow. So you obviously do prefer upright to electric.
It's not that I do prefer it. I like the sound, and because I was so attracted to jazz, there was something. Actually, I really didn't want to play the upright. The first time I touched the upright, I said, hell no, I am not playing this. That's too hard. And
yeah, there's no fret markers.
That was not that. It was not the fret. It was the strength that you need in your left hand.
Oh.
It was. Oh, did you see the size of the strings on the upright?
They're gigantic.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that is not the matter of frets, because you can judge the distance. It is the strength that you need. And at the beginning,
I never even thought about.
That is
what I thought about that. So how do you build up strength to play a bass?
Practice.
Okay. It's not like you don't squeeze like a rubber ball and do things like that.
For a while, I used to, but I think squeezing a rubber ball, you're going to get good at squeezing a rubber ball. So if you want to get good at playing the bass, you practice the bass. Okay. I'm not going to squeeze a rubber ball on stage. So
That's right.
That's what we do. So
now, a bass player once told me, well, this was a bass player who preferred upright, and he told me that the electric bass was really what he considered it is called bass guitar, but he said that they're totally different instruments.
In a way, they are totally different. They're different fingerings. They just kind of have the same function in the band. We are the spine of the band, whether you play electric or upright.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a different instrument. So that's why now that I don't really play a lot of electric, I feel like I suck on electric.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I have a minute to practice, I practice upright. Not only do I practice upright, but I practice my electric upright now because it's a 5-string bass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different than my regular upright. But that's the bass I take on the gigs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the bass I practice.
I want to ask this question for people like maybe parents whose kids are saying, I want to play upright bass. To me, because I don't know any better, all upright basses to me look the same. And I'd like to know, how do you judge a good bass?
So how do you judge
upright bass?
How do you judge a good instrument? Parents whose kids want to play bass, first they don't buy a bass because the kid's too small. You cannot play the bass. They have those mini basses for kids.
Okay.
Usually by the time kids will stop playing bass by the time they get to high school. Okay. Not before, because in America, and that's where I regret that I didn't grow up here, is that we didn't have bands and orchestras in France. We didn't learn music in school. If you didn't learn it, and no, I didn't. We had kind of music class. You did solfeggio. That was it. And that was a joke. So I learned music because I bugged my parents when I was 4 years old. And so that's how I learned music. But I didn't have the opportunity to play with other people, especially playing piano. So actually, the first time I played with somebody, I was in Prague.
Wow.
Of all places. It was got a violin, and I could play the piano. And
but I want to get back to this bass though, because
what's a good bass?
Yeah, now I just want to point out one thing. You did say that usually you start when you're in high school, usually tall enough. Now I do remember Oscar Brown Jr.'s son, Bobo. We were in orchestra together. He was a bass player, but he was a little guy, and he was very dedicated to his bass. He would wrap his arms around his bass and carry it down the street.
Of course.
So he literally looked like a walking bass.
Yeah, well,
and he took it home every day, unlike a lot of the students who left their instruments at school.
You know what? Size does not matter. If you look at a bass player like L.D. Young, who was from Chicago, he was a little bitty dude. That is irrelevant, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just pointing out how cute it was that he wrapped his arms around the bass.
It matters if you're 9 years old. But if you're not, you know, you just play, period.
Yeah. So your kid is 14. He wants to play upright bass.
So he's lucky he's in a school where there's a bass, so he can practice.
But how do you tell a good bass when he gets good enough to want one?
You go to the store, and you go there with a lot of money. And you go online. You get lucky. Somebody got a bass in the attic that they don't want. I got very lucky with my bass. I really wanted one, and I was visualizing a bass, and this guy in Paris, I was just ready to leave for Chicago, and I had been practicing on a rented bass, which was horrible, and he told me that he had an upright bass in his house he didn't want, and because I didn't want to run away with it, I said, oh, I have a bass amp here. I'm not going to use it. I'm leaving. Do you want to switch? He said, yes. And I gave him an acoustic bass amp that was like $400 or $500 at the most for a bass, which in those days was for $3,000 bass, which it was a point. Now it's worth much more. But it's still not a great bass. I would love to go switch it for something else.
So what constitutes a better bass?
Better sound, better wood. It's an instrument is as good as the wood it's made of. It's got to do with, I believe, the wood pretty much, you know, and the way it is designed. There were basses, if you listen to those big bands from Count Basie, I mean, they had no amplification. They didn't play super fast either because they couldn't. He had to really, and the strings were very high so that he could project that sound.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now strings are pretty low because you have electricity.
Oh, okay. I got it.
So
Mhm.
parents actually, I don't know. I don't know about parents buying instruments. My parents didn't buy me any instruments. If I wanted one, me even a guitar, they say, you want a guitar, save your money. And
Mhm.
again, I found one in the street. I've always had instrument come my way.
Mhm. Well, I would say as a kid, as a person who was interested as a 10-year-old kid in guitars, our grandmother rented. I would say a parent should probably rent first to make sure the kid's
Of course. I did that with my
really
daughter.
interested.
She wanted to play cello because it looked like a little bass. We rented one.
Mm.
I saw that she was not, she liked it, but she wasn't into practicing. Oh no, I had to beg her. So I really don't believe that you have to beg a child to practice. If you
Mm.
don't do it on your own, it's not in you. So I'm not going to beat you up. But I noticed that she would dance without nobody asking her. So that's why I put her in that the dance company because that was no practice. I didn't have to ask her 50 times, go
Mm.
practice whatever. She was constantly doing it on her own.
Well, it's
So
good you didn't
there goes the
force
cello.
her.
It went back to the store.
Hmm. Well, that's a smart way of doing it.
Yeah, well,
Well, we just heard a little bit of the journey, and I want to hold up the CD so people can
oh,
see it. Cecile
that,
Savage, The Journey. Right?
that is also my mother's artwork on the cover.
Oh, it is.
Hmm.
Cool. Let's hold up some more. Okay, there you go.
Yes.
And actually, if you don't mind, could you tell us, or I could just read off the names, the musicians who played with you? Why don't you tell us who played with you
There's
on the
so
CD?
many because it's different sessions.
Oh, I see now.
The
Yeah.
journey. There are the two originals are the latest sessions,
Okay.
and the other tunes are earlier sessions.
Okay.
Uh, so on the two original tunes, it was definitely pianist Coco Bronson who was Oscar Brown's kind of right arm musically.
Yeah.
Um, a drummer called Terry Morset,
Hmm.
saxophonist James Perkins, and percussionist Paul Cutton.
Okay.
The other sessions have different musicians, especially a pianist, a great pianist who I love to play with from Argentina named Leandro Varadi Lopez. But
Okay.
that's not
Okay.
an original tune, so you can't play it.
I know. I know. Now, Calvin, Coco, we call him, Brunson, we were in Kenwood High School together, and Bobo. We were all in a couple of the same classes together. And I remember Coco being the, I think he was younger than all of us, and he was like the Wunderkind, the wonder child of the music class, I remember. He's a
Yeah,
great
I used to.
musician. I think, if you don't mind, I'm just going to read off the names of the other musicians we didn't mention. Let's see, William Cochran on drums, Curtis Prince drums,
Curtis Prince is on drums on the other tunes too. Yeah.
okay, and Sugar Blue harmonica,
Yep.
Nicole Mitchell, okay, on
Yeah,
flute,
she's on one of the tunes, uh,
okay.
but you can't play it though. It's really pretty.
I'll listen to it in private. Buddy Fambro, guitar, and Maurice Gordon on
Morris
guitar.
Gordon is the guy. Actually, he is on Alone Again. It is the solo, the guitar solo.
Okay.
He came out of the blue in the studio as we were recording Alone Again. He's from Jamaica, and he
Okay.
liked the tune, and he just started playing, and it was so beautiful. It was
Wow.
gorgeous.
If you
So
don't mind, can I play it? Because it is an original, so I can
yeah,
play it
he
according to
played
the
it.
Google Plus
Yeah,
rules.
yeah.
Okay, folks, we're gonna actually sit here and listen to "Alone Again," written by Cecile Savage. Yeah.
So what do people see when you play the music?
When the
so lonely, and the morning rain only saddening. I saw in my dream, and now alone again. I've left my life here with you, and we love God begins with you, with memories that cry, and now alone again. I try to again, believing I was saved, and know the earth is there is a place I cannot when the night is left with me, and I cry all the night. It was only a dream, and now alone again.
It was only a dream.
Nice. Really, really nice, Cecile. Congratulations. Let me put the settings back on voice. 1 second here. Okay, I'm back. I like your clear voice. You have a clear voice, and I like how you have kind of like that tear in your voice. You know, I like that.
Okay.
So
well, the tune is not particularly joyful, too.
Yeah, well, yeah. So did you go through vocal training, or you just sing?
As a matter of fact, as a kid, I was part of choirs because I always liked singing. Then when I was in the living theater, they taught me I had a kind of unique voice. But I was very shy about singing because I had an accent. So I really didn't want to open my mouth. And I started singing when my daughter was born. I don't know why, maybe it's singing to her. And I had been writing songs before. All the time I was on the road playing the blues.
Mm-hmm.
I was writing songs, maybe because the blues was so seemingly simple, which it is not.
Mm-hmm.
I was writing songs, you know, with what I heard, which was definitely changes, you know.
Sure.
But I would have never dared singing them because I thought people would laugh at me. So it took me a while. Now my gigs, I sing, of course I sing in English, I sing in French, I sing in Portuguese.
Oh, okay.
Songs in Spanish. I really do enjoy singing. It's like a physical pleasure. But because I also play the bass, I always thought that I had never seen a bass player sing. Now it's totally okay, especially with Esperanza Spalding.
Exactly.
Different heights.
And Bobo, actually, Oscar Brown.
Bobo used to sing. L.D. Young used to, in Chicago, L.D. Young. Actually, the guy that got me to singing, playing the bass, was another bass player named Raphael Garrett, who used to, actually he played bass clarinet with Skull Train on some albums.
Okay.
And he was, and Ted Dunbar said, you know, you got to learn all the lyrics to these tunes. It will make you play better. And you got to be, and Raphael.
Wait. Let's go back to that, because that's been a problem that I've been having. That sometimes I hear musicians play instrumental versions of songs and they don't seem to know what the song is about.
That's very true. That's true. So Ted would tell me, learn the lyrics. First, write. You put the right feel into it. It's telling you what it is. And then it makes you phrase different. So Raphael one day blew my mind. He starts playing the bass and singing with it. So you got to be able to walk a bass line and sing. And to me, it was like walking right and left at the same time. So I did. I
can see playing fifths, but not a walking bass line.
Oh, yes, you can. But it takes practice. And Bobo was doing some nice stuff, too. And there are quite a few. I mean, there's more singing bassists than we think. But at the time that I was doing it, I didn't know anybody, and there were not many women playing bass. I'm a foreigner, so I figured, okay, people are gonna laugh at me. I'm kind of shy. It looks like I'm not shy, but I was always very. I had a lot of stage fright. I would freeze up on stage. I
would never have known that.
Oh yeah, when I was a kid playing, I would always mess up somewhere. I didn't want to go on stage. Actually, I didn't even want to do this show, if you remember.
Wow. I would rather just mess up and get it over with, and then the rest.
No. Because they say, that white girl can't play. Because, you know, in my neighborhood, that's how they look. White girl can't play. And I had a lot of cats say that and say it over and over in my face so that I would trip over. So I guess it was at the time when I used to play with Von Freeman, there was a cat that used to be constantly talking while I played, really rude all the time, and we used to call him my petty tyrant, to take back the Castaneda term, but and one day I said, you know, you are so nasty. You're gonna make me better, because I have to really go over everything and just ignore you. And I just said that to him because it was so bad. It was so bad. But
Wow.
You know, now those gigs do not exist. So it's another thing. It's this, those clubs have closed.
Mhm.
There's not the gigs that they wear.
Now, here in Durham, most of the jazz gigs are at restaurants. What about Chicago?
Same,
Yeah.
except for a couple of rooms where people listen,
Mm.
but
Does
they are in
Andy's still
restaurants.
exist?
Who?
Andy's, is that
Oh,
still?
yes. I'm trying to get there. I'm not very successful. They
Mm-hmm.
don't want me there. So I
Oh,
try and I try again.
but it still exists.
Yes, it does exist. Yes.
What is that? Oh, the Joe Siegel's Jazz Showcase is still around,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
hope.
Yes, it is.
And what is that club way on the north side with the long, long bar?
The Green Mill.
Green Mill.
Green Mill.
That,
Yes, it is
that's
there.
still there. Okay. Okay.
As noisy as ever. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes, it
And
is.
what about all of those festivals in Chicago? That you still.
Yeah, there's a jazz fest, there's a blues fest, there's a Hyde Park fest,
So
but
there's a lot of.
I'm not part of those.
Hmm. Well,
Uh,
keep at it. Keep at it, Cecile.
yeah, well, Von Furman used to tell me, don't ask for gigs, let them ask you. Because when
Hmm.
you ask, they usually don't give them to you. That is true.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
unless you're somebody who's particularly insistent, I know some people who have people ask them, or I am not that type of person.
Hmm.
I'm really not. And the few times that I tried to do that, I got slapped in the face.
Wow. Hopefully
So
not literally.
I am not.
Hmm.
I do. I
Well,
do.
you do what you do, and you're good at it, and I say keep
know.
doing it.
And so that's what I say. I say, well, if you're not getting a gig, just keep practicing, keep doing something else, keep writing, and keep enough money. That's why I had to take a day job to
Hmm.
to, to
Sure.
support my child, which is
Yeah.
teaching music. So a lot of people say, okay, well, at least you teach what you do. It's
Yeah.
not like I'm
Hmm.
doing hamburgers, so I'm blessed on that tip.
Hmm.
Um, I had no degrees when I came to Chicago of any kind. I had dropped out of school in France. So in Chicago, I actually, again, from Von Freeman's set, I got geared to go to Malcolm X College
Hmm.
and then to get a degree at Roosevelt. And that kind of helped me. I remember not wanting to go because I would say, yeah, you don't learn music in school. That's not what you're going to. You learn music on the bandstand.
Yeah.
And some of it is true, some of it is not so true.
Hmm.
And then you say, well, keep this degree in your back pocket. You may need it. And for once, I listen to elders. Sometimes I don't. I'm stubborn. I do what I want to do. But that time I did, and that degree did help. And
That's
it
pretty
helped
great.
me also make sure that my daughter had a little bitty degree so that she can move on. You
Hmm.
know? And I shouldn't say a little bitty. When I said that, she got real mad at me. But now a BA is really it's like a high school degree. I mean, you don't get a job because you have
Well, I
a
don't know
bachelor's.
about that.
Yes, especially in this country. I
Hmm.
mean, I was so shocked when I first came to school here by the level. Graduate studies are different,
Hmm.
but when I first went to like a city college, and, I mean, I felt like what I learned in high school was way up there compared to city college.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
but that was the French system in those years. I hear it's
Yeah.
still.
Hmm. Well, before we go, what I want to do is to just run down the names of the tunes on your CD because I think if people enjoy this, that they're going to want to get this. So you have The Journey, that's an original. April in Paris.
I
Alone.
did a French translation of that.
Oh, cool.
I have
Okay.
a French translation at the end of that. Yeah.
Nice. Then Alone Again, we heard that, the original. Petite Fleur by Sidney Bechet. In a sentimental mood, that's Duke Ellington. Fly Me to the Moon. If You Go, Si Tu Partais. Please
That's a
correct.
tune. Now, Si tu partais is a tune that Edith Piaf used to do, but I
Oh, okay.
heard I love Shirley Horn. And I used to listen to this tune, and she does it so slow. It took me a long time to realize it was the same tune. So I do it bilingually. I did it in both languages.
Nice. Okay. Then Autumn Leaves. You have
I
to
do
help me with this pronunciation. Les feux, feux,
Les
feux,
Feuilles Mortes. And
les
again, there is a verse to this tune. And Mabel Mercer and Eartha Kitt used to sing the verse in French because they do the tune in French. And I was talking with Oscar Brown Jr. and said, you know, this verse is beautiful. Nobody ever sings it in English. And the translation of Autumn Leaves in English really does not translate the song. It has nothing to do with what the song is talking about.
Really?
So I gave him the literal translation, and so the verse is his translation of the
Nice.
French verse.
Nice. I think people are going to love that one. And also, you do Never Let Me Go, The Shadow of Your Smile.
And I do a French translation of that too.
Isn't that from a French movie or something?
No, Shadow of Your Smile comes from the Pied Piper or something like this. I didn't know that until recently.
Sandpiper, maybe?
Yeah, Sandpiper, whatever, something like that.
I don't know.
Comes from one of those.
I'm not a big movie girl. And then the last one is My Man, Mon Homme.
Yeah, which is a tune Billie Holiday used to do, but in France it was known as Mon Homme.
Mon Homme.
So yeah, they can find it on CD Baby. They can find it on iTunes. They can get my website.
What's your website, Cecile?
www.cecilesavage.com.
There you are. And I just want to put this up in front of the camera so you can see how she spells her name. Cecile Savage. Very simple, very easy. Cecile, thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, you're a friend of mine, but you're friend of my older sister Cookie, and so I'm very happy to have you on the show.
No, you're the one who first helped me with computers when I knew nothing.
Oh, wow. But you know what? I remember you playing, I don't remember the name of the club. I think it was on 69th Street when our uncle was visiting, Uncle John, Johnny Harris. And remember you played with him. It was on 69th, and it was just west of King Drive. Do you remember where that club was?
There was a club right on the corner. There were actually several clubs on 69th Street.
Yeah.
There was one on the corner, and there was another club with a woman. I don't remember the name of it, but there were a couple of clubs there. Which
I don't know.
Now they're either dollar stores or boarded up, which is sad.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if you realize it, Cecile, but I taped that, and I have that.
You did?
The appearance that you made with
oh my God, I need to see that.
That's from the 80s?
Yes, and I was just starting to play upright. And you see, I was blessed. People were really helping me. I was also blessed to meet another musician, and I should mention him, Louis Ball. Louis Ball said to me, "Oh, I'm going to help you." And he used to play, that was again the oral tradition. He'd play all these tunes. And a tune like, for instance, T42, which is it's got a lot of changes. And then once I knew the tune in one key, he would turn around, change the key on me. And I would go, oops. Val Furman do the same. Val Furman wouldn't turn around and tell you what he was playing, what key. So you just had to go.
Wow.
And anyway, I was.
And you don't mean during rehearsal, you mean on stage?
On the gig. There was no rehearsals.
Oh.
You just go and you just hit. No, it doesn't tell what he's going to play. He's just going to start playing. And you just better find it.
Wow.
So,
and usually that's in a split second for a professional, right?
Well, in those days, it was not a split second. I played a lot of wrong notes. And some people say there's no wrong notes. There's only a wrong place to play the note. But you do, and I remember also, I used to live in the musicians building. Eddie Calhoun, who was the bass player for El Garden.
Yeah.
Eventually you'll hear those bass lines. You just will get through them.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I hear them, there's no gigs to play.
Well, they'll come. They'll come.
I mean, I play every Thursday. For people, if they come to Chicago, usually every Thursday I'm downtown at a club called a restaurant, actually, you're right, called Benny's Chop House, which is right over the Jazz Record Mart.
Wonderful. And with
So
that, thank you so much, Cecile, for being on the show. Okay, folks, this is the CD, The Journey, Cecile Savage. Okay, CecileSavage.com. You said also CD Baby, iTunes too?
iTunes, yeah, and also Amazon, I guess.
Amazon.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so thank you so much, Cecile.
Thank you for having me.
Love to your daughter, Abeo.
I
What
shall.
what is she up to? Is she
Working and getting her own place together.
wonderful?
Yes.
And with that, I will sign off. Okay, folks, now if you'd like to be on TV Skywriter, if you're an entrepreneur, musician, writer, dancer, I don't care. If you're creative and you're interesting, just get in contact with me. Go to DurhamSkywriter.com. You can see right there. You can also just drop me a line, DurhamSkywriter@gmail.com. And with that, see you next Sunday. Ciao.
Take care.